Imagine it's 2009, we're in the middle of the MMO craze, and you and your friends work your way through one free-to-play MMO after another. Gaming for free! Yay! What times we live in! There's also a group of players who play this obscure little MMO you've probably never heard of. It's called World of Warcraft or something? It costs a monthly fee and your allowance won't allow that. But one day, there's an argument. You jump in to listen what the ruckus is about. There is one of your friends that tells everyone about this new game called Aion. He tells everyone that this is the big WoW killer. It uses the same monetization methods, looks way better, and is more dynamic. So obviously, it is gonna overtake WoW. You go home, watch some trailers, and realize, yeah, this game has potential. You might even try it out. A few months later, the game launches. You play a few hours and realize you still can't pay for the monthly fee. Well, gotta hear from the others how it is. You're sure this game's gonna be big, probably just as big as the big boss WoW. You're sure nothing will go wrong. So, Aion. The game launched in 2008 in South Korea and in the rest of the world in 2009. In this video I'll be playing the European release. It was developed by NCSoft, which you may know from genre-defining games such as Blade & Soul, Lineage 2, Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2 by the subsidiary ArenaNet, and lately this small little indie game called Throne and Liberty. So those guys have quite a curriculum. In the beginning it was published in the West by NCSoft themselves, at which time it was a subscription-based monetization system and by players considered as the prime time of Aion. 2012 they gave the publishing rights to Gameforge, and we all know where this is going from here. Well, I'll show you later anyways. At that point it went from a subscription-based to free-to-play. So the question we're trying to answer today is, how bad is the big WoW killer nowadays? And how better to do it than using a random bingo bot? By the way, if you want to play bingo alongside with me or just want to hang out, follow me on twitch.tv/thatBiologyStudent. Obvious self-promotion is obvious. If you've been living under a rock, the bingo game works like this. I made this bingo board. In it I put different things in a game that can, when they add up, make or break a game. I tried to choose points from different aspects of the game, and we will be going through these point by point, instead of chronologically for storytelling reasons. Those are gameplay and story, aesthetic cohesion and sound design, optimization and localization, population, and monetization. If one of those happen, we cross it out. If we get a row, vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, then we got a bingo. Question is, how many bingos can we get within 10 hours of gameplay? And obviously, this will prove scientifically if the game can be considered shovelware or not. One last note before we jump right in. If you enjoy this game, then great, I'm very happy for you. I hope you continue having fun. Also, having a few of those crossed out doesn't automatically make your game bad, or bottom bin trash. A lot of the big five, WoW, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy XIV, RuneScape, Elder Scrolls Online, tick a few of those boxes. Hell, my main game, Final Fantasy XIV, I could probably make a bingo if the layout was just about right. But without further ado, let's go. Already we started out with a myriad of issues. I downloaded the game on Steam and specifically chose the English language. Clicked on start, the logo pops up briefly, and then nothing. I try again. Nothing. To the internet I went and found out that this game is not compatible with Windows 10 or 11. So, compatibility mode with Windows 8 it is. The game starts out and loads and loads and loads. I mean, I don't have the biggest gaming machine, but I outspec the recommended specs for this game released in 2009 fivefold. So we sit for 15 minutes in a loading screen, and then guess which language this game is in? German. By that time, my streaming time came incredibly near, so I settled to explain cutscenes and quests badly like this. We're super fancy special because gods made Aion something, I guess. Oh. Is Raphael, one of the rulers, wanted to have peace with those dragons. And everyone didn't like that. At least I could fix that by the next stream. The loading thing? It does it every time. So if for some reason you want to play Aion, start the game, put the kettle on, call your mom, she misses you, and after you're done with that, you can stop playing. So we start day 1 out with my incompetence. The first 15 minutes of gameplay was muted, and in the second half my audio was out of sync. So, well, you'll get an artist rendition of what I said in those parts. Create a character and jump right in. The very first quest, reading 2 books, already has a problem. Both books are clipped into each other, and one model has a cutscene and the other has just text. I watched the first cutscene over and over and over again. After the first time, I skipped the cutscene, but came to the conclusion that somehow the game didn't recognize my first watch, so I did it again, and again, and again. Until I realized the books are clipped into each other and the second book can only be reached by clicking on the right edge of the first. This game is 15 years old. I have a good feeling about the optimization of this game, if this is the new player introduction. So, the story. There are dragons who destroy the world, and we are Deva who don't want that. Deva is a demigod sworn to protect people, that's basically it. Does it matter? No, the main story focuses on an entirely different plot. So we need to ascend as a Deva. The examiner tells us we are not ready yet. So I hit a scarecrow and read some more books, and now he thinks we're ready and made amazing progress. Interesting. I wish life was that easy. Just go into the office, staple 2 documents together, and read an email so you can get a promotion. But whatever. So basically to ascend, we need to solve the starting zone's problems. It's so memorable that after the stream when I wrote this script, I already forgot what it's called. The 3 people want us to hit this world's goblin who are refining odium to destroy the forest. What is odium? Why are they refining it? Your guess is as good as mine. The pacing of the starter tutorial is fine. It's not Final Fantasy level of storytelling, but it's serviceable. The player always has something to do, the combat is snappy, and the only time I was ever in danger happened here. If you think now that doesn't sound that bad, it isn't. But after level 10 it grinds to a halt. The story ends in a solo dungeon, which is just a snorefest. The dude at the end says we'll meet again, and off we are to our ascension. We get a cool few cutscenes and go into the main city to be greeted by the copyright neutral Hatsune Miku. From now on, the rest of the gameplay loop will be like, do a short main story quest, which takes around 1 or 2 minutes, grind to a specific level, which takes 30 to 120 minutes. Which would be fine if the side quests were interestingly designed, but they are almost always kill X numbers of enemies. Did you hear that? We got our first bingo check. I call 5 times kill X quest in a row. Okay, on to the next area. Now we follow a few scientists that use odium to fertilize plants with the side effect that it corrupts living beings. And we don't like that, so we want to stop them with the power of infiltration and incredible violence. This story beat took about 2 hours to reach and we're not even done by day 1. Since most of the time from now on is spent grinding levels, we quest and commit genocide on the local forest population. It is now that I noticed a little symbol over there. So I click it and... So that's our second bingo square. I call Auto Battler. A lot of Korean grindfests have those. These exist so you can leave your game running and your character grinding while not being there. So an in-baked, usually pretty dumb bot. Why? Okay, tell me, how many of you ever went to your favorite MMO and thought, I mean, this is great, but I wish I wouldn't have to input stuff and could just watch my character kill stuff on their own? Well, anyhow. Also, there's no danger in this game. In 10 hours of gameplay, I exactly died once. And that was because the mob I hit had a reflect buff and I didn't realize, so I unalived myself. After 10 hours of boredom, I can confidently declare, never in danger. Now on day 2, we made it to another story beat, which was a 5-minute talk to X quest about information we already knew. I was looking forward to the second dungeon by this point and learned it wasn't even part of the story, just some random side quest that connects with it. Which... why? The design of the dungeon itself is fine. You get disguised to infiltrate a mansion, get captures, you fight your way out. I really hope we would get some fun gameplay out of this. Gameplay has been monotonous so far, of grinding 1 to 2 hours to get to a 5-minute story beat, but the dungeon was just like the overworld, just with bigger health bars. Except the bosses. Some of them died faster for whatever reason. What the... no matters. The only funny thing that happened in this dungeon was that the game told me to obliterate prisoners. I thought that was a translation error, and it wasn't. So we do the usual MMO thing and commit war crimes because the quest said so. I also got a pop-up that I could join a huge PvP battle. Sadly, in the 1 hour till my stream ended, and on the second day in 4 hours, the matchmaking didn't pop. So no idea how the PvP in this PvP-focused game is. Update. 4 more hours in the game, and I still don't know what the main story is, except that we don't want the baddies to have the odium. Why? I don't know, but might as well cross out, what's the main story? Also, the grind started to pick up the more we went. The leveling went slower and slower, starting at kill 4, quickly escalating to 8, then to 12, then to 12 drops with 50% drop chance, and if this wasn't bad enough, the level gap between these story beats, which remind you were usually 3-minute grind breaks, get bigger and bigger. Which means, yeah, when we stopped playing, the last gap we had to level up was 12 levels. So grind and grind and grind and grind. But hey, you can buy XP boosts in the cash shop, but we will have a look at that later. But for now, to end the story part of the video, progression wall while leveling will be crossed out. Most of the game looks actually beautiful considering its age. The creature design is nice to great, it even surprised me at points. Oh my god! That's such a cool idea! That's so Mimic-esque. The maps feel populated, the layout makes sense, without it feeling too stuffed. But if you just look around a bit too much, the cracks start to form. While the first map after the tutorial seems open and big, it's basically one big corridor from start to end, guided by your level. The environment looks so nice that I want to explore. But every time I do I get disappointed, because in the map only mobs and quest items are placed. Nothing to find, nothing to see. Also, why is it that you unlock wings? Flying with those wings is a big part of your marketing material, but you can't fly nowhere, where it would make sense, which is nowhere so far in the open world. I can only speak for early game, but man, this is frustrating. After 2 hours, I found my biggest gripes of those overly monetized games. The immersion-breaking mounts. I did this quest where I got a thing and had to give it back to that NPC. I got a loot box, and in it was a effing police car mount. Just watch my reaction. I think it covers my feeling towards immersion breaking skins and mounts perfectly. What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't even know what to say to that. Stuff like that ruins my mood in 1 second to play any more of this game. Any immersion, scattered. Fuck that. Fuck whoever put that in the game. How do I get out of it? I, and most other players, like to be immersed while playing fantasy games. I want the world to make sense and be inconsistent. Lore and aesthetics wise. Stuff like this effing police car mount just completely throws me out and kills every resemblance of fun I had up until this point. I know not everyone feels that way, but you can't tell me that the game isn't being worse for having immersion-breaking skins. But I think we have another spot at our bingo board. I call immersion-breaking skins and mounts. After the first hour, I thought we wouldn't get any palette swaps or name swaps in our gameplay session. But as closer we near the middle of the map, the more monsters repeat, sometimes even in the same level range. Look at those zombies. Then those. Then those. Look pretty differentiated, don't they? But walk a few steps forwards. Now look at those. And those. And those. That's a new grinding step. Directly after that. At this point I was so annoyed with the game that I decided the game wouldn't never be a no shovelware game. And we will reach a bingo because every gameplay minute was agony. So from now on I was less generous. So I declare obvious palette swap on screen. The music design is generic, and at points it just loops. It's mostly fitting and serviceable, nothing to hate, but nothing to like here. It's not like 14 where I can sing OSTs because they're such bangers. Give Equilibrium a listen, or the Tulliola theme, or the whole Pandemonium soundtrack. But this is just boring. On the other hand, I hope you like your character yelling at you in Korean anytime you use a skill. And yes, it gets worse with more skills. And every time you're touching a button you're not supposed to touch in that moment, instead of the game just saying something like, no, you can't use that skill yet, this Korean lady yells at you. Every
대상이 잘못되었습니다.
single
사용할 수 없습니다.
time.
잘못된 대상입니다.
Because of my character yelling, and that lady yelling drove me insane after 10 hours, and now I need therapy for getting yelled at for 10 hours of gameplay, I declare terrible sound design. The biggest issues I encountered in the game were explained in the beginning. As soon as you get the game running, it runs with no issues, even though it still runs on DirectX 9. Everything is smooth, no crashes. Just to have something to laugh at, even though this could happen in the best of games. On the day 2, we ran up a wall. Or rather tried. If there's a wall, I'm gonna try to scale it. Well, who would have guessed? Invisible wall. So far, to be honest, they haven't been overly used. So we spare Aion D points for invisible walls everywhere. But then this happens. I don't know how, but both me and the mob are suffering because of a weird issue with the collision detection. The mob is stuck in a rock, so he can hit me as long as I am on top of it. I take a few steps back. Now the mob can't reach me, because he can't get out of the rock and unbug himself. So we're caught in a perpetual deathmatch, never being able to reach each other. Nothing game-breaking here, just a weird bug. Also, the game doesn't like it when you go down slopes. It will bug out every single time with jittery movement. I am starting to feel like this 15-year-old game isn't very optimized, but maybe we should give them another 15 more to fix it. Though Aion seems to be pretty much like Abandonware, focus seems more on the classic servers, which is always a sign of a dying game to me. The localization is an absolute mess. Sometimes the cutscenes are in your language, sometimes they are in Korean. When they are in Korean, you get subtitles. Every voice line from a character is in Korean, some UI, sound effects are too. Think the Korean lady yelling at you. The quest text is in English, but the voice lines quest givers speak are entirely in Korean again. There is no cohesion here, but thanks to the board I created and legally bound myself to, I can't subtract points for that. Since the spelling and translation when something was in my main language were pretty good and I always understood on what I was reading. But again, keep in mind, no matter which language you will choose to play this game in, the game will always talk to you in Korean, except the rare times when it doesn't. Also, the voice lines like to clip when you talk to an NPC multiple times. Have you ever been to an abandoned building? Let me tell you a story. About 10 years ago, I was supposed to star as a side character in a YouTube film production of Back in the Day of a close friend of mine. Sadly, that never came to fruition due to my work schedule. But the first episode was meant to be taking place in this old abandoned burned out mall near my hometown. So at one point he took me there and the feeling stepping in was weird. A big 3-story mall. I imagined this was once bustling with life, but now just hollow, a shell of what it once was, and now it's just uncanny. The scope and size of it in a sharp contrast with the dead inside. If you've ever been in a similar situation or can just imagine it, then you know how I felt when I first stepped into Aion's main hub town for the faction I have chosen. Just me in this gigantic space. And that's a first, even for me. Even in almost dead games, you find people AFKing in hub towns, but not even that. Just emptiness. A world without life. In my 10 hours, I met another player once. At the end of the 10 hours. So, you want to know about the population of Aion? It doesn't exist. Which means the main selling point of this game, the PvP, can't be experienced. And left only is grind. But think of 3 sentences back. 1 player in 10 hours. I think that's reason enough to call haven't met a player in 1 hour. I don't know what else to say, other than there are no players of Aion retail. So let's spare us the time of me yapping on about it, and let's go on to the final point. By now I'm getting tired of this game. Just before we start nitpicking, and since this is the first upload, let me preface this. I get that a live service game needs to be monetized to stay alive. I'm also not against microtransactions, as long as the gameplay doesn't get hindered by it. There are a lot of games that handle monetization great. Final Fantasy XIV, with the buy-to-play plus subscription, and the optional aesthetics shop, where the aesthetics don't overshadow the in-game stuff. Great. ESO with the buy-to-play and optional subscription shop, also fine. Guild Wars 2, RuneScape are 2 of the ones where I think free-to-play shines. Base game is free, you can get the expansions for a one-time payment, and have the option to expand the world for a fee, but that's not necessary in any way. All great in my books. What I despise is exploitative monetization models. Hampering a game for buying a thing to fix that? Loot boxes, abusive payment systems, where you can have currency packages slightly below the buying prices, loot boxes, FOMO pop-ups, and loot boxes are a great example. This has been an even bigger problem since mobile gaming is a thing. See Diablo Immortal and the beautiful video of the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Strife-Haves, the immoral design of Diablo Immortal. Seriously, give it a watch. But we will go back to Aion. Aion is published by Gameforge, and Gameforge is pretty much known, just as Gamigo, to keep games on live support while microtransacting the hell out of them. All of Gameforge's in-game stores have the same layout, so it's easy to find my way through it. We clicked a little bit through, first looking at the conversion rates, and yeah, they go up to $100. Are we comfortable calling this a microtransaction? Well, I am not. Therefore I call over €75 for a currency pack. Looking around we found the usual suspects. XP potions, stuff that boosts your stats, special health potions, mounts, permits, etc. But one thing caught my eye. See, there's a thing in well-monetized games, and it's usually maliciously designed just so players spend as much money as possible. And this is upgrade systems. Usually in good games, this is a pretty straightforward thing. Even if there are multiple upgrade systems, they play into each other, are easy to understand, and completely achievable within the game itself. Games focusing on monetization design the system differently. Throw as many upgrade systems at a player as you could possibly do. All of them only have a small probability to work, a higher possibility to break the item, a high grinding wall in front of it, or all of the above. Often even being easy in the first few levels, and you are more likely to confront those possibilities when you reach higher levels. So the sunk time fallacy kicks in. At that time, it would be only sensible to pay. You put so much time into that game, right? While I was playing, only one system was introduced to me, probably because the game started out as a subscription-based game. But in the shop, we counted for 5 additional upgrade systems. For some of those, more than one item. They all range around $10 and are a one-time use thing. So you gotta fork out a whole lot of money if you want to mingle with the band. So for our last point, let's declare a metric fuckton of upgrade system. While I'm almost certain the main selling point of this game, the PvP, is also pay to win, I wasn't able to confirm it, since I wasn't able to do PvP due to the lack of players. So, let's look at our intrepid bingo board and cross out all of our bingo calls to see if we can classify Aion as shovelware.
Bingo.
Well, my friends, we have a single bingo. Therefore, Aion will be awarded the title of C-tier shovelware. It's scientifically proven because I say so, as a random dude on the internet with opinions. And if you enjoy Aion, let past me ask you. There's no mechanics, no nothing. Nothing I can comment on. It's just standing still, casting, hitting, not moving. Anyone who plays this game for fun, why do you play this game?